Hey everybody, welcome back to another episode of our Chilli side-by-side comparison series here on YouTube. Alright guys, so today we are going to be having a little look through our Chilli experiment and going through where we've been up until this point, and then a couple of plans moving forward. So last video, you may remember, we spoke about the poor chili seedlings being absolutely decimated by well, I'm going to say mysterious visitor, but I'm pretty sure it was a possum. But now, as you can see, they are coming back with a vengeance. There is green growth all over them, which is wonderful. They are starting to show signs of really springing back, even though the heat is starting to subside and chili season here in Queensland is starting to kind of, I guess, round a corner, you might say, as we come through March. But you can see they've come back, they've got some green to them. A little bit of, I guess, interesting things to note is the new growth on some of these. There's a little bit of a twist or a curl coming into these new growth tips. Now, that could mean a few things. Could mean watering stress, it could mean heat stress, but it could also mean that these have the chili leaf curl virus, which is spread by whiteflies of all things, actually. So I'm very much hoping that it is not the last one, the chili leaf curl virus, because that seems to be something that you cannot get rid of once you start to get it into your plants. So we're going to play this out and see what it is. We're going to talk about it. We're going to be transparent and just show you exactly what's going on. But for the time being, our chili clones are looking pretty wonderful. I did say that once they got some more of their mature leaf growth, we were going to test to see what Brix levels they were, to compare them to the mother plant. Which we'll touch on in a second, but I still want to leave these a little bit longer. I still want to give them some time to really mature, have some more foliage basically before we start pinching a few to go and test it. So that might have to be postponed till the next video, but today we've got plenty to jump into. Okay, first things first, I'm going to bring this mother plant over. Let's talk about this. Look how decimated it was in the recent attack from the possums. All of them just got munched. So my protection is a lot higher now. They are under cover, I guess, a lot of the time, under netting and things like this. So there's no way that they can be munched again. But we're starting to see the same thing on this mother plant, this cluster of new growth that's just not really shooting out very well. Now, it doesn't have any bug damage from what I can see. There's no aphids or whiteflies or anything on here, but it is showing signs of stress where the new growth just isn't coming out as it should. So no doubt this will bounce back, but again, it is in this very small container. So that probably has a lot to do with the fact that it is not bouncing back as quickly as we'd like. Now, really quick, I want to touch on the cyclone that came through. These guys managed to fare not too badly. They were out of the rain and out of the wind for the most part, so they did all right, even though I guess the lighting schedule was changed a little bit by the fact that they were brought under cover and there wasn't as much sunshine, a lot more humidity in the air, so a little bit to consider. But for the most part, they came through unscathed. I mean, what else could be done to this chili plant? It's pretty much done after that attack, but it's bouncing back, so we're going to play it out. Now, last episode we spoke about taking the control pot here, the one that sadly died straight away. I mean, a few of you pointed out that if you don't feed a plant, it's not going to grow, which is a very good point. This is the whole basis of this experiment, is to show the quality of feeding and how that changes things long term, how that impacts the nutritional value of our crops and I guess how much they produce and all of that kind of thing. So if you don't feed it, it's going to die. So it has died. And last time we spoke about how we can best utilize this pot to kind of keep going with the experiment and show you some other things and learn as we go. Now, the top suggestion was to do two things. First of all is to basically REAMEND this soil and bring it back to life. Now, this was a completely dead and virtually nutrient-free mix of potting mix, the most basic potting mix you can buy, and we're going to try and bring some life back into it. So once we've brought some life back into it, then we're going to be transplanting this mother plant up into this soil. Now, it's not a huge, you can probably see, it's not a huge jump from this size to this size. So we are going to have to actually carve out a fair bit of soil, or even give the roots a bit of a haircut when we do the transplant. But we might make those decisions when we come to it. The first port of call is to really bring this back to life, to make sure it's thriving and ready to receive this mother plant, and hopefully allow it to explode, some growth, and into next spring and summer, provide us with some wonderful chilies, and show you how we maintain it in a slightly larger pot with a little bit bigger battery of soil, and give us something to compare to. So it's going to be similar to what we're doing over here with the #1 blend, whereby we're using #1 blend, but we're going to be incorporating things like cover cropping, mycorrhizal fungi, ferments, and liquid feeds, and things like this that we're not doing over here. So you might see some techniques that I'm bringing in that I would normally do to all of my fruiting plants and things like this. You might see some techniques here that we're not doing here that these guys could benefit from, but the whole point is just to show you the basics of leaving in a particular fertilizer long term and seeing what results we get. So let's talk about it. What we're going to do with this soil here, you can see I've got a close up there of what's in it. There's not really any life. Most of the mulch is kind of gone. It's sort of just, a bit of dirt. There's a bit of I guess, fungus material or fungal activity going on. I can still see some fungal activity in the soil, possibly from it just being wet and sitting there and having things broken down. I believe we did put in some mycorrhizal fungi when we first started to do the transplant here, but we'll have to check back just to double check whether that was actually the case. But we're going to bring this back. So there's a few products that I've got in front of me on the table that you may have seen before if you've watched some of these videos, and you may be familiar with the process of what we're doing, but we're going to document it anyway. We're going to keep going, putting these things on camera for you to show you time and time again the processes of how I might go about it. Now, this is certainly a disclaimer to say that you do not have to buy these products. You don't have to buy the #1 blend. You don't have to be buying the #2 cover crop seed blend, which we're going to be doing very closely to now. But guys, you can find any of these seeds online. You can plant anything that resembles a cover crop into this pot and bring some life back to it. A good quality compost is going to do the same sort of job as our #1 blend amendments. Things like the ferments and mycorrhizal fungi, these types of things you don't have to have. I want to be clear with that. But I'm showing you that if I want to make this the most epic living soil with all of these amazing nutrients, that this is the type of thing that I would do to really bring the most out of this soil. As we said, we're going to be using the #2 blend here at the Shed Organics, the cover crop seed blend. This is a 15 seed cover crop mix, okay? It's designed to have nitrogen fixing plants in here like clover and snow peas and things like this, that these plants bring carbon down into the soil. Not only are they doing that by just giving root systems and food, and then when we chop and drop it, we're providing food and mulch to it as well. Not only are we doing that, but they actually bring nitrogen out of the atmosphere and can bring it down into the soil for use. Now, in the instance that we're going to use it here to start with, we're just going to sow some seeds throughout this mix, okay, once we've amended it with the #1 blend. And then we're going to water it in with our liquid feed mix, just to really make sure that those seeds have the best chance of germinating, considering that there isn't any life in here right away. You can add some worm castings as well. I'm not going to add worm castings or compost today. I'm just going to go straight in with mycorrhizal fungi, #1 blend, and the ferments and the liquid feed, the fish hydrolysate and things like this, because I want to show you that you don't have to go too far to be able to get some germination. You can see from my recent video where I was transplanting seedlings, unfortunately so many of those seedlings were absolutely ruined in the latest cyclone, but you can see the cover crop seed blend starting to come through on the grow bag over there, and it is starting to show all of its little heads poking through, mostly of clover I might imagine, but they're all starting to showcase their little seedlings starting to pop up their heads through the mulch. Okay, firstly, we're going to use the #1 blend. I've got a large jar full of it here. Essentially, I'm not going to use most of this, probably use about half of it. We're going to sprinkle it through this top layer and then work it into the soil. You may have seen this already. So nice, good sprinkle over the top layer. We'll go again a little bit more. So because there's nothing in here, that's how much we're going to be using. So it's not a huge amount, but now working it in with our fingers. Apologies that you can't see this too closely, but I might pinch some footage from the previous video where I was doing this and work this in. So we're working it into the top layers, maybe roughly up to our knuckles, working it into the top layer of the soil here, just mixing it around. You can still see, if I pull this out, this is the previous root ball from the chili, and it still has its chili puck in here, which will break down over time, but it's still here in the chili puck, unfortunately. You can leave these things in there. I just want to get rid of the puck itself, but you can leave this in here to just sort of deteriorate and provide nutrients to the soil. Also, all of the root systems that were spread out are providing aeration and everything like that underneath the soil as well. So now that's worked in, okay, the next layer is to add some mycorrhizal fungi mix. Remember, this is from Nourish Me Organics here in Australia. You can find any kind of mycorrhizal fungi mix as well that's going to work really well. This just helps the seed at its first, I guess, inception of being put in the soil and sprouting. It helps it make those fungal connections underneath the soil and really kickstart the soil food web that helps them to feed and to basically get all the nutrients it needs. So I'm going to do a light sprinkling over the top of the soil here. Again, I'll steal some footage of this one as well, as you'll see what it kind of looks like, but we're just doing a light dusting over the top here. So this is where all of our seeds are going to become in contact with. So I'm not mixing it in just yet because we're going to add our seed blend first and foremost. So it's seed blend. Okay, because this is my blend that I'm making here at the Shed Organics, I have plenty of it. So I'm going to kind of go a little bit overboard, maybe put in a little bit more than we might need, but you don't need to do so, okay? A couple of tablespoons will do, and I just like to kind of go nice and liberally so we can show what we can do here. So nice sprinkle, okay? It's all just sitting on top of the mycorrhizal fungi at the moment. Maybe I can sort of show you that as well. There you go. You can sort of see all of the seeds sitting on top of the powder there. Now I'm going to use my fingers to lightly, very, very, very lightly, just drop this into the top layer of the soil. Just giving it a little mix around. It helps the seeds kind of get coated in that mycorrhizal fungi as well, and gives them a little bit of soil contact. We can also sort of push down a little bit, just give it a little pat on top of the surface and allow some soil contact there as well. Okay, I'm going to steal some mulch, steal a little bit of mulch from this garden bed just here, and I'm going to sprinkle in really lightly over the top a bit of this straw mulch. This is very aged straw mulch, might I add. We don't want to suffocate those seeds because otherwise, what was the point? But they will, if they do die, they provide nutrients to the soil. It's more organic matter. It's more stuff that's going to break down. It's more food for the soil and more diversity as well. So a light covering, okay? Now you may not be able to see the seeds at all, but that's probably a good thing, okay? That means that they're in contact with the soil, and when we water them in, they're going to make that nice kind of glued in feel into the soil, and they'll have everything they need to hopefully sprout and give us some great cover crop. So let's talk about the liquid feed now. A couple of products that I've got here. The first one, Ocean Grow. You've seen these before if you've been watching the channel. This one is the deep sea sugar and kelp. Okay, following the instructions on the label for a few mils per what we're doing. This is the fish hydrolysate, same thing from Ocean Grown. We've also got a couple of wonderful ferments from organicferments.com. Cam over there, he's a local guy producing some wonderful ferments. So I've got some of the comfrey ferment and then some of the insect frass one is here as well. That's just going to kick-start the biology and really just, you know, as I say, help bring lots of life back into that soil. So I've already mixed it up in here with about 1 liter of water. Possibly not going to use all of it, and I need to be careful that none of it's coming over here onto these other plants as well, because we don't want to be feeding them and distorting the experiment. So I'm going to just quickly slide this one out and away, just so that we know we're definitely not getting that one at all. And I'm going to bring the mother plant forward as well, because this one's going to get a nice bit of this liquid feed too. So watering in, and we'll go from there. So we'll start with the mother plant. We can probably put in a little bit heavier there. You can do this as a foliar spray as well. There's no foliage to spray at the moment on this chili mother plant, but it is what it is. And these ferments have a wicked smell, so if you're working with ferments, be prepared to feel like you're doing this from the inside of a builder's toilet, as it is certainly a funky smell. Perfect. I'm just going to move this out of the way so I don't saturate the rest of this. And here we are, just allowing the top layer to really kind of get soaked down. You can see the mulch there just starting to sit down on the soil a little bit more. This pot is going to be kept slightly in the shade. I don't want it to be in full sun. We're still quite warm for the most part in March here, so the full sun can be quite devastating, especially to young seedlings and young seeds. So I'm going to keep it under cover and just give it a few hours of sunlight in the morning, and keep it protected as well from all the birds and possums and things that might want to come along and help themselves to our beautifully fresh seedlings here. Amazing, all done. So that was roughly 1 liter between the two. I'm going to keep the top layer of this soil wet as much as I can over the next couple of days, adding in a little bit more water here and there when I think it needs it. But for the most part, we can just leave this, let this green manure cover crop grow up. I'm going to leave it a couple of weeks until we touch base again, at which stage we should be able to talk a little bit more about how this has gone and what we can then do with our cover crop. We should have more foliage on the chili seedlings themselves to be able to test the Brix levels. And hopefully we've got a little bit more bounce back from this mother plant now that it's had its forced trim. And yeah, and hopefully no more updates on chili leaf curl virus or anything similar to that. So this is essentially what we would do. If there's anything that you think that I've missed, please let me know in the comments below. Give me some suggestions as to what I might have done better, or even let's just ask a few questions, see if we can generate some discussion down in the comment section. But this is what I do. This is what I would normally do to prep the soil, either for planting in the future, or if this had just been used as it has for a chili plant and I wanted something in the meantime before another crop comes in for the winter, this is something that I would normally do to re-amend and reinvigorate this soil. So like I said, you don't have to use any of these products. You can use a basic compost, you can use worm castings, you can use things like this, but this is the way that I've found is the best for me, and I want to share those with you to help you guys at home as well. So it's getting a bit windy this afternoon. I'm going to jump back into the garden to get some other tasks done, but thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you again very soon on the next episode.